Hello, fantasy football fans, and welcome to another edition of the IDP Dive Drop. And you're here watching me crash. I put the extra outro in before the intro, left that on there, but hey, it's Wednesday morning and I don't care. I hope you are joining us though, because Brandon Jackson's back. We're talking about the Colts defense and basically covering the secondary, the front seven, all of it, and giving our gist on where they stand right now as IDP in fantasy football, based on their NFL scenario, their values, and how to look at them. So, Brandon, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Gary. How you doing?
I'm better. You're doing better than I am, considering how we started the show out. But hey, I'm lazy. I'm not going to end it and turn around and redo all this stuff so we can do it again. We're just going to roll with it because we know that I can't drive these things very well. Let's see. So, starting off with the Indianapolis Colts, where would you like to start? Secondary, line? What would you like to talk about first?
Yeah, we can start in the interior defensive line like we usually done.
All right. So, what do you have for us?
The Indianapolis Colts, they had pretty solid defense. Starting off with Deforest Buckner in the interior. He's one of the best defensive linemen, as the more experienced IDP managers know. It's him and Aaron Donald at the top, and just about everybody else. He's one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles. He averages around 8 sacks a season. Good run stopper. Just overall, just a very fine player. He played 77% of the snaps last year. He had 7 sacks. His highest total was 12 sacks. I still like. I know you guys have Aaron Donald. I'm sorry, you guys have DeForest Buckner higher in the rankings over Aaron Donald, but I still think Aaron Donald is the top defensive tackle. I got him ranked number one in my dynasty rankings. With that sack upside, man, he's delivering double-digit sacks every year. DeForest Buckner's only done that one time. So I just thought I'd put that out there. Aaron Donald's still number one. As long as he's still playing, he's number one.
I think we're in those rankings. We were looking at it as it's a dynasty with redraft in mind, and when you look at the age difference, that's really the only reason. And it seems like we've really came up with a lot of defensive line across the board or edge rushers in that mix. It's kind of, changed how I look at things personally. Love Aaron Donald. He's probably got – the guy could probably play another 3 or 4 or 5 years or something, but I mean, looking at his age, you still got to account for that. So, but I can see Aaron Donald. He's a beast. When it comes to Buckner, man, I mean, the guy's consistent, stable. Granted, we would have probably have liked to see some more numbers like he had in San Fran compared to what he did last year. But that's all right. I don't think that they were that far off. I think it's really combined tackles that he took a dip in. But either way, you got to love them. And inside, I believe they had a couple of guys splitting time last year.
Yes. Grover Stewart. Grover Stewart is he's their run stopping defensive tackle. He's not really IDP relevant. He'll get a few tackles, about 30 tackles, but he's not going to get any sacks. I think he has like maybe 5 sacks his whole career. He's been in the league for like 5 years. So
yeah, he's in the base.
Yeah, if you're looking for IDP production from him, you're not going to get it.
Right. That was Stewart, you said, right?
Yes, Grover Stewart.
Yeah, he's just a big old run stopper, gap filler type guy that was in their own base, and then the next guy you have is they was bringing in on as a pass rusher on certain situations, which I think he ended up splitting 50-50 on snaps maybe through the year when they were both healthy.
Right. I think Grover Stewart, he finished with 59% of his defensive snaps, and Taylor Stallworth is the guy that you're mentioning. They brought in on on passing downs. He finished the season with 3 sacks. He's 26 years old. He ended up playing 33% of the snaps.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, between the two, though, I mean, if they re-sign the one, or if they bring in another body and they keep working that other position on the interior defensive line with Buckner that same way, which only makes sense because that's usually what that position offers. Really, the only thing you're looking at is Buckner from the interior defensive line. Yeah. Well, might as well slide on out to the ends, which is, if you guys don't know, Brandon, he's our newest writer, and he's been putting this stuff out, and he's getting ready to talk about somebody that he recently wrote about. Go check out all of his content on gridironratings.com. Make sure you're following him at bjax83.
Correct. bjack83.
Yeah. I had to pull that one out of my armpit, but yeah. So make sure you're following him. Check out all of his content, and then I'm going to let you start this off with this Kitty Pay Love or Witty Pay Love. Kitty Pay.
Yeah, Quiddy Pay.
Quiddy Pay.
Yeah. I've been writing the Key and Diagnose series articles on mostly second-year players, and I recently wrote up Quiddy Payne, edge rusher for the Indianapolis Colts. He was their first-round pick this past season, and coming out of the draft, he was viewed as something like a project. His pass rushing moves, weren't fully developed. He only had, I believe, like 11 sacks his whole 4 years at Michigan. And Mel Kiper, when he analyzed Payne, says that he's inconsistent. He needs to develop a second pass rush move, and that's what I saw on film. For most of the time that I've watched him, he had trouble generating pressure because he couldn't get off blocks. He had the speed rush, and if the lineman got the best of him, he had nothing, no second move, to constantly win a matchup.
Right.
And I basically wrote in my article how he struggled to create pressure compared to his peers. I noted a few guys there, and he's like way behind on pressures and hurries. So he has some developing to do this offseason. I'm sure that the Colts will work with him. I know GM, I believe Chris Ballard is his name, advised that it's been frustrating for them with the COVID issues the past 2 years. They haven't had much one-on-one time. It's been mostly video and stuff in the off season. So he's hoping that they can actually have hands-on experience with the players, this off-season mini camps and things. That'll probably make it easy for them to develop Quiddy Payne, because coming out of draft, they say he's a high upside player. He just needs to be coached up, what Mel Kiper said. So he has upside, and I believe there's a chance that he can break out here in his second year, another year of seasoning.
Yeah. What are you thinking, Mike? I mean, are we talking upper tier one? Are we talking tier one at all? Are we talking, this is, folks, it takes a lot of people or a lot of these guys time to develop, as he's mentioning. I mean, the whole entire class, even Parsons, which came in as an edge rusher this past year, he was a natural, but even he can improve. So I like Pay a lot coming into this year, just like you do. But what do we think his ceiling might be? All right, let's go with his floor. What do we think his floor could be as an edge rusher play coming into this year?
His floor, I believe he can probably get to anywhere between 8 to 10 sacks. Probably his floor, his upside, definitely double digits. Especially playing next to Buckner, and if they bring in another free agent edge rusher, or they have another guy that we'll talk about it in the second, their second round pick that they're pretty high on. If the players, develop next to him and make it easier for him to have one-on-one matchups, and I think upside is pretty high for him to have double-digit sacks. In my article, I mentioned that he had a similar profile to Vikings edge rusher. His name, I'm trying to
Daniel Hunter.
Danielle Hunter, correct.
Daniel Hunter.
He came in raw into the league just like Pay. They say you need developing, and he developed pretty fast. The second year leap was enormous. He had like 12 and a half sacks in the second season. So that's what I'm thinking. His upside can be.
Yeah. I could, I in the back of my mind, I think that floor is a solid tier DL 2 or edge rusher 2, and that upside. I mean, just depending if it's this year or possibly his third year, he's got tier 1 dynasty all over him. So make sure you check that out. And then your other rookie, he's an interesting case too.
Right. His name is Dayo Odeyingbo. They drafted him in the second round. I was watching some film on the draft, the Colts draft this past season, and they were so ecstatic to be able to get Pay and Odeyingbo in the first and second round because they believe they're both high upside players. I watched tape on both. I was really intrigued by Odeyingbo. His size, he to me, his body type resembles more of Danielle Hunter. He's tall and lanky and very fast. Thing with Odeyingbo is that he caught an Achilles. He injured his Achilles in his final year at Vanderbilt. So he had to recover last season. He missed the first 7 games, and he never really developed a significant role. Ended up with like half a sack and probably played like maybe something like 20% of the snaps. But they're high on Odeyingbo. They think that he can develop into something special. So should be interesting how they develop both these young edge rushers, Pay and Odeyingbo.
Right. Probably gone, I would think, unless he really signs a cheap deal as Muhammad, which is kind of anchored the one side as an edge rusher. He's nothing. He had a streak, I think, last year that he had a few good games in a row, but then came back down to earth possibly the year before. But either way, he's a free agent, and with them bringing back Lewis, which I was kind of surprised after not being able to stay on the field. It looks like we're looking at Tyrone Lewis and Odubimbo, whatever his name is to say, and Kitty Pay is probably their starting 3 guys next year. I would in rotation. That's pretty firm. I guess it's a possibility they bring in a free agent. I don't think that they're going to spend the capital off the edge in this draft when their offense needs so much. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? Are these the 3 starters for the beginning of the year?
I think so. Before the free agency begun, I thought they were going to bring in a edge rusher, a major edge rusher. But after consideration, I think that they want to develop these young guys because, like I said, they were so ecstatic during the draft about Pay and Odeyingbo, and I think a veteran might possibly stunt their growth.
At least a high-end veteran. I mean, if
Right.
you bring in somebody like Clooney or something like that for a 1-year deal, he can teach these guys something. They still, right now you've got Lewis is the veteran out of this group that's possibly going to be playing, and yet he's got limited playing time. So, he's not exactly a full-fledged kind of veteran. You want somebody like Clowney that's been doing it for years, or somebody like that to come in and just, be an on-the-field coach for these guys, basically. and help show them some moves and such. But yeah, as in bringing in Von Miller or anybody else that's out there like that right now, I doubt that very much.
Yeah, I felt like, a player like that can help, Quiddy Payne's growth, kind of show, bring him underneath his arms and show him, how to some moves of rush a passer to become better.
Right.
And also, Ballard, he was so upset during his end of season press conference. I never seen a GM curse so much, man. He said, we got our tails whipped against Jacksonville. He was so upset that he really wanted to make the playoffs, and he notated how he was disappointed in the pass rush. They had to get better with the pass rush things. He mentioned also the passing game. That's why they got rid of Wentz. They weren't happy with him.
Yeah.
And he also mentioned Tyquan Lewis. You said you were surprised that they resigned him. I wasn't surprised because I watched the end of season press conference, and he brought up Tyquan Lewis a couple times.
Well,
so I had a feeling they were going to re-sign him.
Well, you know why I was kind of surprised. I guess I have a little disappointment carrying over after naming him a breakout last year. So it didn't go well. He got hurt again and kind of bit the bullet on that one. So I mean, if the guy can, he was a second round pick a few years ago. He's a beast. You were talking about a particular play that you've seen.
Right. Yeah. Tyquan Lewis is, he's a solid player. I was watching him, watching some tape on him. It's not his fault he didn't break out. It's just, he tore his ACL in week 8 against the Titans. He was having an amazing game. He had a sack, and then he injured his knee on an interception. I seen this guy drop back. I swore it was Darius Leonard. He intercepted his pass and started returning it back, and then he landed awkwardly and tore his ACL. So this guy, he's a very versatile player. He kicked in on some passing downs. He kicked in and played defensive tackle next to Buckner. And he started a couple games at defensive end once Quiddy Payne had a hamstring injury. Guy looks solid. Like I said, very athletic. I was very impressed by the interception. So it's I'm not surprised that Ballard is high on the guy. The guy's good. He's a baller.
Yeah. He's a physical specimen too. He can get it done just like you mentioned. So, I don't think that there's any reason that we can't take pay in that second wave of edge rushers coming or defensive end, defensive line. That second wave is a safe place to get both of them. And when it comes to the other two, it definitely are guys that have their upsides coming into the year. It just depends on where you grab them at. I would think you'd get Lewis cheaper at this point if heading into the season. I think Lewis probably comes in third, but only based off the fact of health. I mean, I don't like to put an injury bug tag on somebody, but when it's year in and year out for the first 3 years or whatever of their career, you really got to take notice of that. So I think I'd go get Odie Bingabo. I gotta say it again one more time for the fans.
Yeah. Odeyingbo.
Yeah, I'd go get him over Lewis at this point. And again, he's got his upside too. So I think it's Lewis that's got more to prove than that rookie heading into this season. So, all right, we're rolling along. So we're going right into the linebackers. You want to go secondary?
Yeah, we can talk about the linebackers, Gary.
Yep. They're short and sweet. They're short and sweet when it comes to the linebacking. I mean, that's what's impressive about the Indianapolis Colts is that, basically they had 2 linebackers, a safety, and a cornerback that you wanted to own last year in IDP. They all performed at a pretty high level when on the field. I think Willis might be the downside because he got hurt for a while, I guess. But, I mean, there's a lot to like off of this Indianapolis Colts defense as far as IDP owners or managers, pardon me. So where are you at on Okereke? I probably pronounced that wrong.
It's all right, Gary. I got you. Yeah, Okereke.
Yeah, there we go.
Bobby Okereke. Yeah, he's been there starting Mike linebacker for the past 2 years old. 2 years. He's 25 years old. He led the team in tackles with 131. Basically, it's him and Leonard getting most of the snaps there. There's nobody else. I like Okereke. He's more of a, I won't say run stopper. He's not that great in coverage. But the Colts, they're pretty happy with their linebackers from what they said.
Oh yeah. Both of them stayed healthy all last year, I believe, for the most part. Both of them filled the box score. They produced. There's nothing to like about that. Last year, Bobby was such a value in drafts. That value is shot now. I think a lot of people should, even after the Anthony Walker walk, which the previous year, those two, him and Bobby, were like 50-50 on snaps, I think. I do believe Bobby ended up being the main starter, though. But when it comes in, what it boils down to now is you're not going to get that value on Bobby like you did last year. He's not under the radar anymore because he proved that he could produce at a full-time role next to Leonard. So, but hey, if you got him in a dynasty league late last year, you're really smiling entering this year.
Right. Yeah, I grabbed Okereke in a few leagues, man, because he was so cheap. I remember you guys were talking him up and wrote articles about him, about his breakout. And
yeah. Oh, I was getting him. I was ecstatic because I think at least 2 or 3 of my 8 leagues or so, I got him off the waiver wire, or I got him super dirt cheap, like late in the drafts. So but there was redraft, so it didn't do anything for me in dynasty. But yeah, so we'll move on to the secondary at status quo with Leonard and Bobby, and just draft them at their value, which is you're going to get probably nearly as much production IDP wise out of Bobby as you will Darius Leonard, but Darius Leonard completely has the higher ceiling, so you're going to pay for that.
Absolutely, those big plays you get from Darius Leonard. He may not produce a whole lot in the tackle department. He had 122 tackles, like 130 in previous seasons. His rookie season, he had 161. I think he finished as LB1. But the thing about Leonard, his upside, he can be the upside. He can be the LB1 due to the turnovers he's forced. He's very good in coverage. He collects interceptions, like 3-4 interceptions almost every year. And he had 8 forced fumbles this past season. Even though the tackles were down, those turnovers fueled him, and he still finished as an LB1, like LB8.
I think he did miss some time, a little bit of time maybe too, so that hurts his average and his overall. But the guy's he's a playmaker. That's why he's usually ranked at least 1 or 2 in most. I think he actually slipped down a little bit in some rankings coming into last year because of the season he had prior to that or something. Everybody was falling in love with Devin White and such, and moving him up the board and moving Darius down in some cases. So, but as he did his rookie season, he proved his worth again. So,
absolutely.
Yep. Well, I'm sorry.
I think we have him like consensus number 2 in our dynasty rankings. We got Roquan number 1 and Leonard number 2. I just can't put it. I can't put anybody over Leonard because his upside is just too high. Like we discussed, the turnovers. He forces very, very high upside. Very, very good player. If you watch the guy play, man, he diagnoses the play, and he's firing off the ball to make a tackle. So definitely one of the best players in football.
I think I put Smith at 1, and I'm looking at the team around him, the defensive unit around Smith going into the next year or 2 compared to what it is with Indianapolis. I gave Smith the edge. It's a hair. It's a really, really small hair. Let's roll right into that secondary then. Let's see. I think we talked about Xavier Rhodes is their only real. Him and Odom, which is Odom is the safety. They got 1 cornerback, 1 safety that they used last year that are free agents this year. So what is that secondary looking like?
Right. So Xavier Xavier Rhodes, he's a agent corner. He's an unrestricted free agent. I don't believe they'll bring him back because of his age and he's kind of in decline. They do have Kenny Moore, who's the number one scoring cornerback. He had over 100 total tackles and 4 interceptions. He's been very consistent the past 2 years. He's impressive. He's strong in coverage and very strong against the run. That's why he collects all these tackles. You just watch him, and he diagnoses play and he just attacks he plays like a safety to me. The way he just diagnoses the play and just attacks the line of scrimmage and attacks the ball carrier.
Moore is always there are far and few between cornerbacks that can be used as over a lot of safeties, and Moore has definitely got that in leagues. And he's probably heading into that same option into this year. So, you can't blame somebody. I'm not going to do it, but you can't blame somebody when you see somebody drafting or trading for a guy like Moore that looks like he's going to produce again this year.
Right. Yeah. He's so consistent. He's a nickel corner too. On 3 wide receiver sets, he kicks inside and they'll blitz him in things. So he can collect sacks and things of that nature. He's solid player, solid defensive player.
Yeah. So what are we looking at across the field from him?
Well, with Xavier Rhodes probably not being brought back, they have some young guys that they drafted. Rock Yassin, who they drafted in the second round a couple years ago. He was injured, I think, a bit. He played 13 games. He had 8 starts. He was decent. He rounded into shape at the end of the season. So he's going to be competing for that second cornerback spot opposite of Kenny Moore. And also they've just signed a free agent this week from the Raiders. His name is Brandon Faison. A decent starter. He started quite a few games, nine games for the Raiders. Gus Bradley, the new defensive coordinator, I'm sure was a big reason why he was brought on. Signed him to a 1-year deal, a cheap deal. It'd be very, very good value. He's a solid cover corner. So he's going to be competing with Rock Yassin, and also they have a guy they drafted in the 5th round, I think, a couple years ago. His name is Isaiah Rodgers. He was their primary return guy. It was that they talked about him in the end of the season press conference that he was performing well at the end of the season. I see him. He had a interception, I think, against the Raiders, covering Deshaun Jackson on a deep route. He picked it off. He looked pretty good on it. So he's going to be in the mix for that second, third cornerback job. So it should be interesting. I'm not sure if we're going to do anything in the draft. Go ahead, Gary.
Yep. When it comes to whoever's playing across from Moore, I mean, we was talking about this prior to the show. They only have $54 million in cap or something. They get this quarterback situation going on. They're not diving into free agency off the top, trying to sign some huge guys. I think that they're trying to get Robinson probably, or Darius Leonard is doing some recruiting on Twitter from what I see, but trying to get some players over there to help out. I think the guys you just named off are possibly they're at least heading into camp. I think these are who they're going to be looking at to see if they can start. So being opposite of Moore, how do you think that they would play out? I mean, are they worth picking up and stashing as potential guys, or is Moore going to absorb most of that cornerback IDP?
I know Moore is going to produce at a consistent rate because the way they use him, just it's just so sweet for IDP.
Right.
They play him in the nickel. It's almost like that big nickel role that we talked about in the past. He plays like a safety on the line of scrimmage on passing downs. He's going to collect tackles. I'm not sure if any of these other guys are going to be IDP relevant. I know they're decent in coverage, but they have room for growth. I don't know how maybe
Their
Brandon.
their their production may depend on how well the pass rush develops. You know,
Yes.
you don't have a pass rush, they're going to be, like they're doing down there with the slot receivers in Jacksonville, with signing all these wide receivers for Trevon Lawrence or whatever his name is, a quarterback. Um, uh, these guys might be serviceable. Whoever wins that job might be serviceable by matchup. So yeah,
Yeah.
now it sounds like Moore is the guy, and the other one is more of a wait and see. There's only going to be so much production to begin with, which is leading us into who is starting at free safety for him.
Free safety is Blackman.
Mm-hmm.
Get his name here. Julian Blackman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's been starting, I think, for the past couple of years. It's a solid safety, coverage safety. And Chris Ballard actually mentioned that the defense was hurt once Blackman went down. I think he only
Mm-hmm.
played eight games all season. And the coverage really suffered when he went out. I remember there was I think it was a Thursday night game against the Ravens. Lamar Jackson just carved them up. Colts got a big lead. Ravens won in the passing mode, and they just could not stop Lamar Jackson. He passed all over him. The key factor was Blackman being out. They
Yeah.
really missed him.
No, he come across to me as the guy that's probably making up for any lack of cornerback coverage. He's getting, he's getting to the tackler after the pass has been completed, type, downfield into the secondary production. So when it comes to Willis, it was a little bit of a disappointing year at strong safety for him.
Right. Yeah, he had some injuries as well. He missed quite a few games.
Mm-hmm.
So they had these mediocre guys filling in like George Odom, Andrew Sendeo. Sendeo is 34 years old, so he's not as athletic as he used to be.
Right, and
So
he's a free agent. Hopefully, they don't bring him back.
Right, and they got a guy Jaleel Adade. These are older veterans. They don't have much upside. Not IDP relevant at all. Yeah, so we want to see Julian Blackman and Kari Willis. We want to see them starting there. More IDP relevant. They're much better players.
Right. And that's kind of, an overall aspect now. All right. So we're talking about, like, again, they've got options on defensive line, really great options with Buckner. Then you have two really great inside linebackers. And then you have that secondary that these guys were producing in IDP in the past. Somebody can't get it all. There's a piece of the pie here that I think somebody's portion is going to get a lot smaller. And I got to believe that it's going to be the secondary that may not produce as well as they had in the past on weekly averages. I really do like what they have going on in their mindset with that defensive line. I really think that we've got a couple of hidden gems there. And if we get better pressure, sure, it'll lead to more interceptions or passes defended for errant throws by the secondary. But I think it's going to cut down on those tackles. I don't think it's going to be a situation where they're going to be able to pad the box score in that situation. I'm a little bit worried about Moore, but again, I'm not a corner guy. But I'm sure going to get a piece of that front seven somewhere in the drafts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they have a lot of upside. It can be one of the top units in the league. I plan on investing on Colts defense, special teams, and for my offensive only leagues.
Right.
We got a solid board going.
Right. I guess the only real advantage to owning any of these guys is what happens with that offense this year.
Right.
If they get a lot more time on the field, if they don't improve or whatever their situation is, I don't think Wentz is going to be the guy this year. It sounds like they might have some interest in Matt Ryan. Certain scenarios fall out with Watson and such. You had mentioned those. I'd seen some things about that before, but that's all hearsay. So there's nothing really that we can project about that. When we're looking at this unit, or you're looking at defensive units and what's happened after the draft and free agency, I don't expect here getting defensive that will come back and circle on the Colts unit again. I got a feeling it's set in stone just like it is. They didn't have a lot of key figures coming out of free agency that mattered for at least IDP managers. So I think it's the new shiny gems that they have on the defensive line and the status quo for the rest of them for the most part.
Yes, the Colts are pretty well-run franchise. You look at the way they manage the salary cap. Most of their younger players they're highly paid players. They don't have any issues with dead cap or anything like this, like some of these other teams do.
Right.
They have when free agency started, they had the most salary cap room. They had like $69 million. I was a bit surprised they didn't use any, but then again, the beat reporters were saying that Ballard doesn't like to go after the top-notch free agents and spend big.
Yeah,
so we probably should have expected this. And then another thing is, you brought up the Matt Ryan situation. I was thinking maybe they were kind of holding that salary cap back just in case Matt Ryan becomes available, so they can fit him in that salary cap. I think they still have over $50 million of cap room left.
Yeah.
So it's a very well-run franchise. I'm very impressed with the way they run it, and they stay under the salary cap, and they're paying most of their younger guys. They're invested in their offensive line and things like that. These younger players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up now that we finished it off with some Dirty O. And I'd like to encourage everybody to hit the subscribe button. Go follow Mr. Jackson at BJack83 on Twitter. Check all of his content out, and we appreciate you joining this Gridiron Ratings production. And I think we're going to wrap this up. Brandon, you want to say your goodbyes?
Yeah, guys. Just like Gary was saying, make sure you keep in touch with the content. Watch the videos. Read my articles on Gridiron.com, my key and diagnose articles on second-year players. And we're going to do our best to help you guys out and help you win some IDP championships. I look forward to working with Gary here, helping people out.
Oh, I'm stoked that you've joined us this year, Brandon. It says you got a bright future in this industry. With that being said, folks, we're going to say adieu.
All right, guys.